Hello and welcome to another Star Citizen Organisation Spotlight, this time looking at Forgotten Heralds, a smaller, lawful, private military org focused on training, contracts, operations in-game now, and a very active, friendly community. It's a very good choice for players that want to get into the game now and play regularly at all skill levels. If they want training, if they want to fly as a wing doing ops together, then this is a great org for you. Forgotten Heralds are also giving away a Pioneer on my channel, but also, specific to this video, a Terrapin. So make sure that you are subbed to my channel and then comment on this video to be in for a chance of winning that Terrapin. It's going to be drawn on the 27th of March, which is Harbinger 1's birthday. And it's a good date because my birthday is on the 26th. These org spotlights are about finding the right organisation for each player, and I was able to sit down with their leader and talk about the org. Who are you and what's your role in the org?
Graves, James M., Commanding Officer, Forgotten Heralds, call sign Harbinger 1. It's good to meet you face to face finally, so to speak.
Or audio to audio.
Yeah, as they say.
So can you give me a brief rundown of what the organisation does, as well as its purpose and goals, not just in the short term, but a little bit longer term release kind of things as well?
So we're a CellSpark company. That's a para or private military company for the uninitiated. The vast majority of the contracts and the clients we end up with tend to be, security and escort and so on. But it's not as simple as just grabbing a couple gladii and forming echelon left or getting pickets out there and hoping for the best and being ready to fight pirates. I mean, there's a lot more involved, whether you're protecting your data, your diamonds, your freighter, or, your friends. The idea is to make sure you've got the intel, the boots on the ground, you know where you're going, what's going on there, what kind of traffic there is. So it's a lot of logistical support and preparation, aside from simply the security aspect of it, the escort aspect of it. We've got a lot of contracts already lined up. I kind of feel like while the game itself is certainly in very obviously alpha state, the savvy players and the savvy orgs are sort of already playing the game. So we've gotten some very large contracts already lined up for regular security work and for occasional work, as well as the alliances. So long term for us, look, we believe very strongly in the ideals of the UEE, but we sort of wanted the red tape gone. So that's the direction we ended up going, hence the CellSpark.
Do you have any experience in previous similar games then, running organizations or having this sort of alliance set up, contract set up?
Yeah, so the Forgotten Heralds as a whole started out, and still is, mind, a multi-gaming community, right? We've been around for many years and a boatload of games, from back in the days of DC Universe Online all the way up through, really pick a first-person shooter, or an RPG-style game. We do everything from WoW and, of course, Destiny, because that's the more recent thing. People still play solo games as well. But, we've been around for a number of years playing almost every game that's come out. And we still have a relatively active community that does that same thing. The difference in this case is that, I'd been gone from gaming for about a year and a half, stayed in touch with my people from the Heralds, of course, but wasn't, due to life, able to game, which happens to all of us, yeah. I came back in the last week or so of October and immediately got into Star Citizen, and 3 weeks later I was asked to take over our chapter and basically organize Star Citizen. So we've got plenty of experience through multiple games and multiple years, both together and with brand new people. But in Star Citizen, it's a whole new experience, because of course it's a whole new style of game, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. It is a whole new game.
Yeah.
For some, it's Eve 2.0, but for others, I think it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be able to see things here that simply haven't existed. I mean, already it's a better game than some of the finished releases I've played, despite the bugs.
Despite the bugs, indeed. What kind of players are you looking for then? Because I know you don't take affiliates.
Correct. There's no reason we can't be friends and fly together if you're from another org. There's no need for there to be some sort of weird on-paper thing that says, right, we're allowed to be friends now. So affiliates don't make a lot of sense for us as an organization. As far as the kinds of players we're looking for, I have a very, very, very hard and forced rule, heavily enforced, which is that you have to follow through with your commitments. And your commitments require you to do what you say you're going to do. That's it. It doesn't matter to me if you're a brand new player or you've been around for years, if you come in with no skill or more skill than any of us already have, right? That's irrelevant to us. Whether you're a heavy role player or you don't care about role playing whatsoever. You know, if you say you'll be there, be there. If you didn't say you'll be there, nobody can be mad that you weren't. We're looking for people, whether they're casual players or hardcore, who want to be a part of this structured sort of military company that want to play. And real life will get in the way, and that's fine. Just be open with your communication and let us know.
Largely, you are contract-based and a lawful org.
Correct, absolutely correct. We do, however, create a great deal of our own content. You know, mundanely or outside the game, among other things, you know, I'm a writer and I'm a voice actor and a musician, and I've gotten a bunch of contacts and friends together who have done many of these things as well. Some are in Star Citizen, some either can't be bothered or don't have the time, but I've pulled all of them together to create these sort of breadcrumb sound bites. So we are literally creating our own content within the game and spinning the narrative that way. It comes to, right, this is your next mission objective, here's the comm traffic you pick up, or here's the message that's sent from command, or whatever the case may be based on the individual mission. Let me give you an example.
Code 19, repeat, Code 19. This is Lieutenant Commander Vanessa Finn, call sign Blue Molly, Sector 6 Command. Priority communication, this is a Code 3 mission. Operation designation, Nightcap.
And yeah, you'll probably recognize that voice. She's one of yours, isn't she?
She was very happy to be part of of the Star Citizen community. I haven't got them into Star Citizen properly yet. The guys I play games with very regularly.
I'm a helper. I'm helping.
You are helping. They need a bit more of a substantial, full sit down and play game with little or no bugs.
Well, of course.
That's hard to find even in AAA finished games nowadays, though.
Sad but true. I mean, I loved it, but look at Kingdom Come.
Oh, that's true, but there's a lot of joy to be had there if you don't mind looking beyond a little bit of buggage.
Yeah, but not everybody's comfortable with that. People want, and it's not inappropriate to want it, people want finished games that are minimal, if not non-existent when it comes to bugs, because, damn it, if I'm going to pay money for it, I want it to work. I can't blame them for that.
Right. That is indeed true. So, what roles, mechanics, and ships is your org focused on? What sort of expectation can I have there?
Right, so I held off very, very hardcore when I took over on recruiting, right? I gave a very firm no active recruitment because I firmly believe that there needs to be something to recruit people to, right? Instead of just, right, we're an org. I wanted to build the infrastructure to allow us to absorb people and to make sure we had some level of definition in our roles and so on. So we have individual military companies within the Forgotten Heralds, using company in this case more of the archaic version, which is basically a captain and his men. Think 10th century and the like. And we have companies that are specialized in not literally everything, but some are focused on electronic warfare, some exploration, some just very heavy combat, pew pew pew. Others are focused on the logistics, which is everything from hauling and making sure we have supply. Others are focused, that also includes silly things like mining and farming, yeah, and even salvage to some degree. We have a company focused on search and rescue, and we have another one that we're about to launch, which is focused very heavily on science and technology. Right, so there's a lot of room for growth. But we want this sort of specialized gameplay to allow you to be a part of sort of an org within the org, a smaller company that is focused on the part of gameplay you actively want to do. Everyone gets cross-trained. Everybody learns how to do, first-person shooter tactics and how to secure a location and what to do should you get boarded or if you have to go on board, right? And everyone learns, at least to some degree, how to fly and fight or defend themselves. Because you need to be able to have that. I mean, after all, at the end of the day, we're a military company, yeah? So we have to have that aspect. It's cross-trained with every single one of these companies. But I want to build that sense of esprit de corps, that sense of brotherhood and camaraderie and connectivity. So if you are very heavily focused on hauling and you want to be a space trucker, but you love the military concept and you love the support that lends, then we'd be throwing you at our logistics company, assuming that everybody matched up and liked one another, and you'd run with them on a daily. We'd do specific operations for you. You would know who to talk to. You'd be flying with the same people all the time. And when something larger happens and it becomes a fleet action or an operation, everyone pulls together. It also means when you log in to our server, you look around and say, well, so I see there's a search and rescue guy on. That wouldn't be a bad call. Let's see what he's up to. Or, oh, hey, Electronic Warfare has some people on. Awesome. I'm going to grab a couple of them, and we're going to see what we can find and scout while we're doing cargo hauling.
So in the shorter term, though, with training and operations, are you still running them now?
Oh, yes, all the time. I'm not sure when this will actually hit the air, but today we are running one and streaming it live this evening on one of our members' channels. And those operations go back to those sound bites, those breadcrumbs I was talking about. So there's a training scenario involved. It includes both PvE missions and PvP scenarios. Wherein somebody has to play the role of the heavy, the role of the would-be villain of the piece, the antagonist. It isn't scripted from the standpoint of the good guy wins. Your raw skill, your interactivity, your communication will either win the day or lose it. And that has to be okay. These are training ops. But we do, determine who's going to be the antagonist and protagonist based on who's going to be available and online and so on. And we run training ops several times a month, depending on how buggy the game is being and who can be on and who's available on a given day.
So how much of your gameplay, then, for the org in general, is going to be PvP focused, would you say?
To some degree, that's to see, because it's based on what sort of people kind of make up our, I won't say final, but in the short term, our sort of steady community in regards to Star Citizen. As I see it, as we're planning it, though, when we have a proper verse, when the black is a little more expansive than 2/3 of a system, I expect it will end up being something close to 80-ish, 85%, maybe only 70 or 75 PvE, and the rest will be the PvP scenario because either we'll be sent off to do it, or, and this is one of my favorite parts of the game, this is all calm, and we're just running security, and we're exploring, or we're rounding a corner here, and hey, that's a pirate, and that's a player, and we couldn't have predicted that, and we have no idea how they're going to act. Whether they're a good guy or a bad guy, whether they're a mate or some sort of malefactor, to use a fancy schmancy word, we won't know. And so PvP will happen, and it will be spontaneous, and it will be magic.
And how roleplay and lore orientated is the org then?
I personally love roleplay. I'd be a fool and a liar if I said otherwise. But I take it a little bit differently than a lot of people. For instance, I refuse to forget how contractions work when roleplaying. And I know that's a thing that I've seen a lot of people do online when they're RPing. We are very lore-oriented, yeah. I made sure we were, as I said, actual Star Citizens, part of the verse, rather than attaching ourselves sort of after the fact. Nobody is going to be forced to do it. More importantly, I don't mind if you don't do it. Because here's the thing. Let's say you show up, you're bored, you're here, and you want to shoot. You're part of one of our companies that's very heavily gun-oriented, very PvP-oriented, and you don't give a toss about RP. No problem. We'll call your bio redacted, which means you didn't have to bother to write one, right? So none of the RPers can fuss about that. This may come as a completely radical concept to a lot of people, but chances are high while you're actually out and fighting and on a mission, you're going to use a lot of military or military-esque lingo, because it's just better for communication, right? You want quick, concise things said while you're flying and in the middle of a fight.
That's great. I like the all-inclusive vibe. Other than no affiliates, are there any other restrictions on your org for particular people? I assume no pirates either?
Yeah, no pirates, to be sure. We like to say we're for anybody, but not for everybody. You need to not be allergic to ether for when we take you into the black site and have the... No, I'm just kidding. Of course, that's not a thing. We, in the org, are very oriented toward, doing the right thing and being as lawful as we can be. No PMC can be 100% lawful. You can't live in a vacuum and pretend that things that are, black hat or gray hat don't exist, right? So we focus very heavily on being what we call white hat, very oriented toward order and law and, kind of doing what we can to defend people, obviously for money, but not always. We don't want you going against UEE law. We don't want you as a mercenary that doesn't really care one way or the other, that's super heavily focused on what worked to the degree that the law be damned. And we have rules within our charter specifically about that. Those rules mean that if you're, caught or chased for doing something that breaks the law in-game, you're booted. Not forever. Once it's been acquitted, once it's been adjudicated, once you're no longer with that bounty on your head, then we can look at bringing you back in straight away. When the org management tools come out through Spectrum, where you can sort of set those crime stat levels that auto-boot, so you're not manually monitoring it, that's going to be a thing. This doesn't mean you can't have a conversation with a pirate. You're a fool if you don't interact with people on all sides. But it's important that you are focused on not being the guy that runs around and breaks the law. If you do that, you're kind of going against our entire purpose. You know what I mean?
Can you tell me the kind of expectations of a new member? Say if I join today, what the expectations of me be in the short term?
So we try very hard to make certain we build straight from jump that sense of community and camaraderie. And this isn't just for the sake of being friendly, although that is a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. But rather, chemistry isn't something you can force, right? You can't make people like one another. But you can do a hell of a lot to foster it, and actual chemistry translates very heavily toward victory on the field. If you know the guys you're flying with, and you interact with them all the time, they become somewhat predictable to you, and you can trust them to do their part.
Synergy.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? So to that end, we want very quickly to encourage you, learn who you are and what you actually expect from us, to make sure that we aren't, falsely advertising to you, oh, no, we totally do that, and we actually don't. No, we've got 50 guys like that. No, we really don't. I want to know very quickly, we all do, sort of who you are and what you want from your time in Star Citizen and what you're looking for from the org. I can tell you what we want, I more or less just have. But if I don't have some gauge, it's even in the application process, as to what you expect from us, there's never going to be a proper meeting of the minds. Expectations have to get set on both sides. So we're very friendly, we're very engaging. We aren't going to, sort of let you into the deeper circles of what's going on and tell you exactly what's laid out where and why and how. That sort of defeats the purpose. Some things have to be under clearance, under true trust that comes with time. But we want you involved. And if you want to be involved, that's how that conversation goes, and it all blooms from that.
Can you give me a real quick rundown of how I'd join you and the recruitment process, and just quickly?
Sure. The first step, of course, you can come to our Discord, and there's I've set everything up with a few of our bots so that the application process can be completely automated, but it doesn't have to be. We ultimately want that conversation. The process is looking at the application and copying those few questions over to a separate pad, like some kind of RTF document, some kind of notepad or WordPad or Word document. Fill out the simple questionnaire, like it's super easy, it's all no-brainer stuff. Drop it in our applications channel as an attachment, and then just write over to the RSI page and actually type in application submitted. And then we know you've actually followed instructions. Congratulations, you've proven that you can read. We love that. We love people who can read. It's magic. But really, that's it. Assuming that there's nothing through our conversation or through the application itself that goes against who we are or what we do and is simply a bad fit, then that's the whole process. And then, of course, you spend some time as a probationary member with us, just getting to know everybody and getting everybody to know you and so on. But here's the other thing. We know, between us, a great many other orgs. So if we're not the right fit for you, look, I'm not so desperate for numbers. I don't believe that numbers automatically win the day. It's the unit that reforms fastest that is the one who's most likely to carry the day. Right? No plan survives contact and so forth. Every other adage you can imagine. If you come in and really you love the idea, but you're really not so focused on the law, you don't automatically want to be an anarchist, but we're a little too focused on staying on the right side of the UEE for you. No problem. Chances are high I or one of mine know exactly what other orgs might be a better fit for you, and we're happy to refer you over to them. Okay, so obviously you're very community orientated. How active is the Discord, and how often do you have events, training, gaming sessions, and how would your org members get involved with them? Just jump on the Discord? Yeah, it's really a matter of just jumping straight on the Discord. As far as activity, we're currently very small.
a small org with room to grow. So what are you at now?
21 or 22? No, 21. As far as how high we're looking to get, right now, if nobody who joins up and nobody within currently looks to branch out to form another company where that infrastructure exists and therefore expands, I would say 200 is probably the max we're looking for. But I don't see that as a realistic situation. I think we'll be much bigger than that in time, because the way the infrastructure is set, the organization of the org, allows us to sort of franchise out with those smaller companies as long as there's some kind of a specialized purpose. Even to the point where there are these smaller orgs that exist outside, right? So with PMCs, you've got kind of a big spectrum. You've got the gold standard, and that's enemy contact, right? Pound for pound, they are the fastest, swiftest, deadliest PMC out there. They routinely hold the top multiple spots on the leaderboard, always assuming that the game isn't in a state where it can't be played, like it has been off and on through 3.0 because of, bug testing and stress testing and so on. So that's sort of the gold standard, right? And then at the other end of the spectrum, and here's where I won't mention names, there are a lot of existing PMCs that are 2, 3, 4, 8 people, and their leaders are having a hard time growing, having a hard time figuring out how to make their vision, which is them in the lead of or as a part of this massive fleet of doom destroying the Vandul, or taking on a pirate outpost or whatnot. They're having a hard time getting from the 6 or 8 members they have and actualizing to that stage. And that's, understandable. It's not an easy task. But I feel very strongly that, you got 6, 8 people that are willing to follow you. You've clearly done something right. If you're having that hard time, then you may be coming to a situation where you look at us and our resources and come in whole cloth as a company of ours, not as an affiliate, mind. The official org that you have would dissolve. But Fred's Fighters, who have 8 people in them, not a real thing as far as I know. If it is, I'm sorry, Fred, I just pulled it out of the air. Fred's Fighters, who have, let's say, 7 people, are having that problem. If they sit down with us, then Fred's Fighters are likely to become the next company in Forgotten Heralds. They'll get a seat at the table. They'll have access to all of our resources, all of our sub companies that exist based on their own specialization. They become a unit within our greater whole, and they have all of those resources to pull from. So I don't see us being stuck at that, up to 200 range. Just as we stand right this second, I could absorb another 180 people and wouldn't have to bat an eye at how to make them fit in and how to give them a place to stand.
So what's the reason for you to be recruiting now, basically? Because that's effectively what you're doing. You said you weren't interested in the beating the bushes, but this is sort of like an advertisement.
Oh, quite
so. Your org?
Quite so. We're now that all of that infrastructure is in place, now we've opened the doors. Now we're actively willing to recruit. Now we are willing to beat the bushes. I just wasn't willing to do that before we had our actual infrastructure, our history, our UEE ties into service, the charter, the manifesto, getting the organization within the org. How can you make people or encourage people to join a thing that isn't properly a thing?
I saw through your lore and looking through your stuff, the Storm Heralds and Sword Heralds.
Yeah.
Can you explain just briefly what they are?
Sure. The easiest way to describe it is this. If your major focus is pew, 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 me, em, shoot, right? Then chances are high that you're going to be a Sword Herald. It doesn't mean that's all you do. But if that's your mainstay, the thing that you bring to the table, you love to shoot, you love to run and gun or fly and gun, you're a Sword Herald. If what you love to do in the game is veritably anything else, then you're a Storm Herald. This gives us a quick way to connect people. When you play any game, invariably it's getting that balanced party together. Somebody needs to be the tank, somebody needs to be the healer, etc., right? The same sort of thing applies here. You're never, or almost never, going to have a party or a unit or the like that is only Sword Heralds. There needs to be somebody to handle the repair or the logistics in almost every scenario. And so you'll want at least one Storm Herald along for the ride, or vice versa. Even with search and rescue, we're not just sending out people who are medics. They have dedicated fighters and dedicated breach and borders with them, and they're Sword Heralds, whose job it is to keep everybody safe while they run the search and the rescue.
Is there anything else that you would like to discuss or tell people about Forgotten Heralds?
I'm sure by now everybody's seen Letters from Vega, that leaked footage that Miss Cross didn't herself leak out, but at least according to her interview, but somebody did. It's an unexpected proof that we were there. You were there. I remember that broadcast very, very well. By the way, last year I actually got to see our thespian space turtles. It was a little hard to follow because I don't speak Xi'an, but it was an interesting show. Seeing Hamlet performed by the Xi'an in Xi'an was just mind-numbing.
I very much enjoyed being part of Letters from Vega, so thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, by the way, I don't know, you missed it the other night, 2 nights ago at Area 18. I got to see Deathcore and the Death Fragments on stage, and ZZK opened for them. Mr. G was kind enough to give me tickets. You were conveniently not there.
What do you want from me?
Maybe a public apology for missing their big debut?
No, me. I'll watch it later. It's podcast.
Fair enough. So, I suppose the other thing worth mentioning, and I'm not sure where within the interview you'll put this, is I'm legally blind. That's worth mentioning because I feel very strongly that sort of thing should be open and upfront and kind of in front of people. You know what I mean? I play the game with a combination of stick and voice attack, at least when voice attack works. There are a lot of things that I'm not directly able to do. I'm a better fighter pilot than I have any business being. I'm certainly a better pilot than I have any business being. But that usually puts me in the role of either tactician or just running shields, because I'm not unwilling to do that. I think a good shieldman can keep you alive way longer than you doing that while fighting and shooting and flying and dodging and singing and dancing and impersonating Elvis and so forth. But I feel very strongly about being upfront about that. I'm not, it's not the first thing I say, hey, I'm Harbinger 1, I'm blind, nice to meet you. But it's the sort of thing people deserve to know. It also makes things much easier when you're actually aware of it to not wonder why I missed the thing or why I'm having such a hard time doing whatever it is that may need doing. The game has gone so far forward in the direction of being accessible if you, as the person who needs the access, are willing to do the work to get the prep work out of the way. And it's kind of a huge testament to how much work they've done that somebody with my level of visual acuity can actually play it and play it effectively. It's just the sort of thing I feel like should be open and on the table.
Well, you're certainly one of the more able blind people I've met on the Discord, at the very least. Like, you're pretty active there.
Text-to-speech helps.
Indeed.
Plus, I'm not Stevie Wonder blind, which is, of course, the benchmark against which all blind people are measured.
It is. Clearly.
But yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, thank you very much for making that clear. Is that a question you get often? Are you Stevie Wonder blind?
Oh, yeah, you'd be amazed. In every interview I've ever done for any part of my jobs, it's always been, well, you're not Stevie Wonder blind, are you? Or are you, how blind are you? And how well do you hear? It's hard for me to say that, but yeah, the Stevie Wonder blind is a fairly common thing. There will be more Letters from Vega, by the way. So Alex has put out the commercial for the Merlin and for the Archimedes, and now Letters from Vega has come out. One of the things that was important to me to do is use that as a lever to, obviously, getting you involved was wonderful, and we really thank you for getting there. And there's more coming for you in 2 and 3, I have to tell you. You were at the radio station when everything really hit. Radio stations not notoriously hardened bunkers, so we're going to see BoredGamer in the very near future running around with his shiny bald head and running into the base to try and get the hell out of Dodge and not get eaten or blown up by a vandal.
Oh,
you're going to get quite a bit of action coming forward, believe me.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But when I first got involved with that project, I'd reached out to Alex because somebody else had told me what he was working on. And then I got involved as a writer for a lot of the extras dialogue and helping polish a few things and line direction and produced the Cast Deck Arms commercial and wrote that and did the same thing with you with your newscast and so on. But sort of my big draw here, and Alex and Slayer were kind enough to be all right with this, is we're very grounded in that day. Like, that's, for want of a better term, that's sort of the 9/11 of Star Citizen. Everyone was a citizen of Aramis that day, right? It's the thing that allowed us to officially declare war on somebody that had been raiding us for years beyond count. I wanted us tied to that in our lore, and so of course we are. We were there. And the proof of that is in Letters from Vega, where I, Harbinger 1, am there on voice. Holy Ruin is there on voice. Angriest is there on voice. Joji I is there on voice. Like, a bunch of the people from High Command were all part of that, doing lines, not as main characters, of course, because the story isn't about us directly, but we're there. We can now legitimately say, no, we were there. Point to that. See, there's my voice. You can tell, because it sounds just like me speaking right here. We were there. It was an important thing to sort of ground us very heavily in the lore. With 3.1, not only due to the optimization pass, but due to some new mechanics that are coming in, server speakings included, the entire game expands for everyone, and for us, that gives us more opportunities to create different kinds of mission scenarios, be they meant to be proper canon or training operations, live fire or with a lid on them. We're only going to be expanding from here, and every new mechanic and every new iteration is going to offer everyone more gameplay, and so for us, it offers us more of a pool from which to find ideas and create operations for training or for just action.